Live from beautiful, soggy Mountain Dude, Bristol, Tennessee. Your favorite podcast is your favorite gentleman, braver than the rest. We're so glad you're joining us tonight on a beautiful Wednesday night, or as I like to call it, Wednesday.
Wednesday.
We got Dr. Briscoe in the house again tonight. So good to have you with us, my brother. Got a lot to go over and unpack. I love the graphic, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm working on a consistent design. It's all about the consistency.
See, so we just have Trump on that every week.
Yeah, well, you know what? I was working with some AI images, and I was going to have him smoking a cigar.
Yeah. Teflon. I love
Teflon
it.
Don.
Teflon Don. Boy, they cannot win for trying with this.
Oh, my gosh, they can't.
They are falling down.
Nothing sticks.
Well, because it's all fabricated, right?
Oh,
it's all.
yeah.
I mean, well, I shouldn't say all fabricated because that makes it sound like he's a saint, which we know he's not.
No, he is not.
We also know that he is not our savior.
Fair point.
But I mean, when you go after why don't they find the stuff that he's actually done and go after him for that?
I think all those years in New York, I don't necessarily think that he's done as much as people would think that he's done.
Yeah,
He played tough nose, with all those contractors. He dealt with the unions, and I just don't think there's anything there. It's not like he was covering his tracks. He was just doing business like everybody in New York was doing business.
Every New Yorker.
And while it might be dicey, it wasn't illegal.
Right.
Yeah.
Although it's dicey. I mean.
Well, negotiations. I don't know if y'all, I've never negotiated with a union before. My father-in-law used to. That used to be his thing, was going into companies and negotiating with the unions, and you had to be tough-nosed to do it. And obviously Donald Trump is. So I don't know. But
that'd be a tough job right there.
Who?
Shoot.
Yeah, it just seems to me they have a hat full of just, well, that didn't work. What shall we do next?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like you watch the unraveling. I mean, they can't seem to, there's just nothing there, right? There's just nothing there. And every witness that they're calling up is like, no, that didn't happen. No, he never told me to do that.
And in the meantime, they turn a blind eye to, what's Biden's boy name?
Oh,
Hunter.
Who?
Yeah.
I mean, he's gone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no kidding.
It amazes.
It's pretty ridiculous.
I think that's how they overplayed their hand with Trump, though, is that they just started throwing so much stuff out there. The average American, first off, is like, okay, this is getting a little ridiculous, even for them. If they had picked a couple of things and actually built a case and tried to go after him, then maybe something would have stuck. But they're spreading they're throwing it.
They are all over the map, just seeing what'll hit. They're just throwing it against the fan, seeing what hits and where it goes, and where if this will land and maybe get him, then we're gonna go with it.
Well, I knew that classified documents thing. Everybody said, I was listening to Megyn Kelly. I don't know if you ever listened to her or not. Yeah. She's super sharp. But she was like, if anything sticks, it's going to be this classified documents thing. That's what's going to stick. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, first off, he's the president. He has immunity from that. He's the sole authority, or not the sole authority, but he is the ultimate level of authority for declassification of documents. And if he's got him in his house, you can argue whether he should or shouldn't. But as the president, he's allowed to.
But I thought whenever this took place, when they originally went into his home there, immediately their story was, hey, we worked with high-level defense and intelligence about how to store these things that we have. Like, it was not just sitting out in the garage like it was at
Biden's, yeah, or at the university like it was. I mean,
of course, you never know how things could be planted and staged, and I mean, we know that there is all kinds of nefarious things at work all the time, and so who knows? Who knows? It's a joke.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is a joke. Yeah, I mean, every president has left office with some form of classified documents. Trump was working with the National Archives, so they were in communication, and they said, "Hey, anything that we're not, if to complete the record, because that's what the whole thing is for, right? It's to complete the record, the historical record. which is why they drag stuff in front of Congress. It's why they say some of the things that they say in Congress, because all that goes in the books. And technically speaking, the history books will be written that way, but I think revisionist history is going to ruin us.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, it's to complete the presidential record. It's the same reason they went after Hillary Clinton. I say went after. The Republicans were saying they were going to go after her, but she got away with it, for having all of her communications as a Secretary of State on a private server, because that record is not in control of the federal government. It doesn't complete the record, and it makes her position, I guess, subversive would be the way to put it. And that's everybody's beef with it, aside from the fact you're not supposed to transmit private or secret information or top secret. She's getting top secret over private data channels. It's all got to be encrypted.
And yet she's riding in a car singing with people. Like she's scot-free, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think the thing is, you're seeing somebody who is, even though, we all know, and you're on tonight, so it's perfect, that he is, as the world or as Americans would like to think, he's anti-establishment and he's going to drain the swamp and blah, blah, blah. I think he's part of a smaller swamp. I don't think that
Donald Trump is.
Yeah, he's gonna drain the swamp, but he's also got his own swamp. And
yeah,
they're all I think they're all just playing into the enemy's hands.
Yeah.
And without realizing it. Like I said, I don't believe that he is nefarious. I don't believe that he is evil like some of them. But I believe that he is still being used and playing into the enemy's hands. And it's, it'd be...
Well, I made the point on here once before, and it wasn't original to me. It was just something that I had heard, but it was a very well played thought. He's a pawn in all this.
Right.
He was selected to go in and be the president for the time that he was in there. And if for most Christians that have adopted him and just think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, which is ludicrous to me, but that's neither here nor there. If Hillary Clinton had gotten in front of the nation and told churches that they needed to shut down for 2 or 3 weeks, their heads would have spun off their shoulders.
Bingo.
And somehow he got the trust of, let's do 2 weeks to flatten the curve and, see where we go from here. She would have never been able to pull that off. I mean, there would have been a real January 6th, not the staged one.
Right.
Yeah. I'm
you just got us booted off of every platform ever. This is Jared. This is why we can't have guests.
This is why we.
I actually don't want you to be a guest. I think, honestly, having you here, having Ben back, like, would just always, because there's a biblical perspective that you bring in, and that we can bounce off each other. That I value, I love that about you. And I love your heart. So I'm really glad that you're here. And even though you smell, I think it's great that you're here.
That's why I turned the fan on.
Why is there sappy music playing?
But yeah, let's get on with some of the headlines tonight. Breaking: Judge vacates the trial date in the Trump classified docs case.
Oh wow, yeah. So this is from the Post Millennial. The Mar-a-Lago seized documents case, this is what we were talking about a little while ago, against Donald Trump, has been indefinitely postponed. So the trial was set to begin on May 20th, and a court order Judge Eileen Cannon wrote that it would be imprudent to finalize a start date at this juncture, noting that a number of pretrial issues have not been solved. So I will go ahead and say that some of these pretrial issues involve the FBI putting they were basically falsely labeling the evidence. So when it got brought to trial and Jack Smith is pleading ignorance, I don't know how that happened, but it was clearly staged by FBI people.
So would you say, Jared, that it wouldn't be prudent at this juncture?
At this juncture.
That was good, wasn't it?
That was really good, yeah.
Oh, that's so.
But it's, it kind of plays into what you all were talking about. Well, let me read on here.
Okay.
The court also determines that finalization of a trial date at this juncture before resolution of the myriad and interconnected pretrial and SIPA issues remained and forthcoming would be imprudent and inconsistent with the court's duty to fully and fairly consider the various pending pretrial motions, legalese. The court therefore vacates the current May 20th, 2024 trial date and associated calendar call to be reset. And essentially they're saying, look, you all have got so much trash that you have to sift through that we're not going to go forward with this. And in my opinion, this is it's a win for Trump because this silly trial is going to go by the wayside for the foreseeable future. But it gave me a little bit of faith and confidence in the justice system because they're allowing it to even go to court was ridiculous in the first place.
Yeah, to begin with.
Most of the 99.9% of the stuff that they're trying to push on him is garbage. But the fact that a judge said, nope, before we go forward, unlike Engelron and or Ingeron, whatever the guy's name is, the guy that the $350 million fraud case and all this stuff, he's still trying to go forward with it, and he's making political decisions. But there are judges out there that say, no, this is a court of law. This is still a blindfolded lady justice. And so it gave me a little bit of, honestly, hope in the system. And it should remind everybody why it's so important to pick the right judges.
I think if we understand that the laws that exist are not, they're good.
Yeah.
If you follow them, you just got to find somebody that's going to follow them. And then, in this case, it's pretty clear. They don't have it together. Now, do you think this hurts him or helps him? Because this still is going to remain over his head. It's not gone away until he gets elected, in which case then it's a no-brainer.
I think that he's you saw he violated the gag order, right?
Yes. I believe that was intentional.
Yeah, 100%. He's pushing the limits to against, he's violating a gag order. He wants that judge to say, you have to go to prison, but he's going to do it in a way that is, he's not going to act out in a way that people say, oh, you deserve to go to prison for that. He's going to act out in accordance with the First Amendment and with his constitutional rights so that he forces a judge to make that decision against what's basically it's a decision in a political trial. This is a purely Banana Republic political trial.
Right. And then at that point, they can appeal to the Supreme Court much easier, I believe, because now his rights are being infringed upon.
Yeah.
And
yes. However, we got the whole January 6th thing too, where all kinds of rights were trampled on.
Yes.
And
still are being trampled on.
And as far as the Supreme Court goes, there was all sorts of really very sound evidence presented to them after the 2020 election.
Yeah.
And they just kind of...
You're right.
And so... is everybody in on it? No. But I think that there's enough people that are in on it to... it's like, this seems good, but what's next? Is there some false flag event that's going to come about prior to the election anyway?
Oh,
I kind of can't. Or it's a matter of, if it gets to the election and he does get put in right after that, it's like, okay, we got all our ducks in a row. Here we go. Let's go ahead. And so, because it's like, you keep hearing over and over and over, well, for the first time in American history, a U.S. president, ... fill in your blank.
Right.
And it's like they just get their rocks off.
Yeah.
Doing the first time.
Yeah.
First
time.
Exactly. Like, oh, I did that for the first time. Good.
I think what I want to know is if this whole real estate thing is a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want Alvin Bragg to come under the same kind of scrutiny.
Right.
So that Alvin Bragg is a DA, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So his net worth is.
I will nod like I know exactly
I know
what
exactly.
you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Of course.
Old man Bragg's boy, right?
Yeah. Old man Bragg. Yeah. Makes a heck of a flapjack, that old man.
I played baseball with his boy.
$41 million.
41 million.
41 million.
Is what he's worth?
Yep. 41 million. And you go, okay, he did that because of his successful legal career. I don't know a single lawyer. I don't know any lawyers.
There are some. Those $2,000 an hour lawyers, though.
But $41 million. A lot of it came in real estate investments and stock. So, did you?
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen the list of stock? You pulled it up.
Oh, yeah. I could probably find it.
Pass.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen any of it.
Dude. Yeah.
If you can find it real quick.
Yeah, let me see if I can
for
find
everybody
it.
for everybody to see. It is laughable how these people that are in quote unquote power are milking the system 6 ways to Sunday.
Yeah.
And they're doing so much insider trading. They're getting so much information. They're selling off stocks, buying up stocks right before things happen.
Mm-hmm.
It is ludicrous how these guys need desperately, every one of them needs to be held to account, in my opinion.
So this is their percent return. So here's the S&P down here, the SPY. That's the S&P 500. This is how much they've outperformed the S&P 500. And it's,
wow.
Yeah, they are rocking it. It's like, we should honor these men and women who are willing to, put all of their skills aside and not go to Wall Street and make hedge funds billions and billions of dollars and make billions for themselves and choose to serve inside of Congress. I mean,
who's
disgusting.
Brian
That's
Higgins?
sarcasm in case. What's that?
Who's Brian Higgins? A lot of these are like those members that the congressmen that you don't really know who they are unless you're from their state or district, right? They're quiet. It's not the Marjorie Taylor Greens. It's not the Nancy Pelosi's, right? It's.
I'm going to show this picture of Brian Higgins.
Diana Harshbarger's down there keeping it real.
All right, I'm going to show this picture of
Dan Crenshaw keeping it real.
Here we go.
Okay. This is Brian Higgins. This is the lotto winner, the congressional lotto winner when it comes to investing.
I mean, this is right. This is. Hang on. Oh wait, that is.
Show a picture of him. He's got big old thick glasses on him.
Yeah, it might be close. We better watch out.
Well, I want to make sure that I'm putting up the right face, so we're not getting in trouble for libel or something.
Right.
But I mean, this guy right here, that I'm about to show you. I'm going to build this up just a little bit. Is a guy who outperformed the S&P for 240% or 200.
I'm expecting a grown up.
There he is.
I was expecting a grown up Ralphie.
There he is. Yeah, looks like he just had a drink. Yep.
Wow. Congratulations.
Good for you. Good for you. 239% that you outperformed the S&P.
So this is why I think that they despised. We were talking about Trump. I think this is why they despise Trump. This system works so well for both parties. It works well for Republicans. It works well for Democrats. They can do their insider trading. People look the other way. Think about where we've moved just politically and socially, like with legislation. I mean, the debt tells us one thing and our deficit spending tells us something. But it has been a constant compromise to the left. And it's because the Uni-party, the Republicans and the Democrats, the big R Republicans is what I affectionately call them. But the big R Republicans and the Democrats, everything was just fine. They didn't have anybody kicking up dust. All the lobbyists, the people that work for those companies that they're investing in, they got an ear with the president. And Donald Trump said, get the heck out of my office. I'm not talking to you. He brought in his family and his close advisors. He made some bad decisions on some close advisors.
Sure.
But the lobbyist class lost.
I mean, don't we all?
They hate him.
Yeah, they hate him. And that's why they're trying to get...
That's why I like him.
They're trying to get the law that if... what are they trying to do where they won't allow Secret Service to guard people, politicians that are in prison, right?
Yes.
So they're trying to get that removed. So like if Trump goes to prison,
Mm.
he doesn't have Secret Service with him. And that means that he'll pull an Epstein.
Oh.
He'll hang himself in his cell.
Well, I don't know. Maybe
I mean,
there was talking on something the other day about.
I could show the video of it, but this was Jen Psaki, the former White House press secretary. She was going on, maybe Trump will go away, maybe he'll go to jail, maybe he will die. Not to be too morbid about anything.
Wow.
So she's openly saying it. This is on MSNBC. Yeah, I mean, as John Kennedy said, you ever listen to Senator John Kennedy?
No.
You ought to listen to him. He's just a good old boy from Louisiana. He said, Christmas ornaments, drywall, and Jeffrey Epstein. Name 3 things that don't hang themselves.
It's true.
There were some fantastic jokes that came out of that. I mean,
Oh,
I'm still not even convinced he's dead, but
Really?
yeah.
Boy, yeah, you do. You got a
I mean,
good full hat on there. That's pretty good.
Did you ever see a body?
No, I didn't.
I did.
There was a lot of.
Did you ever see Obama's body? Or not Obama, Osama bin Laden? Boy, that derailed quick.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Pulling the plug. What was that?
Why would we didn't violate anything.
Why? There was a 30 Rock joke about that. Why doesn't the president hunt down Barack Obama? I'm voting for Osama.
I used to love that show, 30 Rock.
Yeah,
it was so good. Till that one guy, Alec Baldwin, killed somebody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Then,
Anyway.
that just turned me off.
Okay.
It didn't work out too
No,
well.
it's
for him.
terrible. Terrible.
I mean, even that is it Robert Kennedy? I think that's who they were talking about the other day, and they don't want Secret Service because it's like, look what happened to his dad and his uncle. Like,
right.
He had Secret Service. It didn't work out too well for him.
Well, he's playing nice with Trump. Y'all are bringing up all the stuff that I had links for.
That's so good.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
He wrote this lengthy tweet to President Trump talking about the rigging of the election and all that kind of stuff, and then said, hey, let's have a debate, because they're both talking at the Libertarian Convention. And why? I mean, neither one of them are Libertarian. It's just, I guess the Libertarians will just talk.
But
to
who
anybody.
else do they have?
Oh, gosh, I'm not even showing people out there.
Who do they have?
They don't have anybody. Yeah. They're too, that party is too, it's gotten too wackadoodle, That's why I sit in between them.
So when you say you sit in between them, would you consider yourself
I'm just
a libertarian?
A libertarian.
Or a
I'm not a Republican.
No.
Conservatarian, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's the Libertarian Party used to have people running around, naked at their convention and saying, "Oh, freedom! I can do whatever I want to do." It's gotten too close to anarchy and all that kind of weird stuff. So
kind of like the Democratic National Convention.
Oh gosh, well that one now that's. I wish I had that video of the kids that go and they're like, "Excuse me, can we stop using the gendered language?" And yes, and this was the Democrat Democrat Socialists of America. And
I saw that.
I said, "Yes, comrade, we'll make sure to do that." Can we not speak so loudly? Those of us that are sensory sensitive or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
I saw it.
Can we please keep it down?
I mean, at this point, don't have a meeting. Just don't have a meeting, or everybody call in. You know, where you had to jump through so many hoops to speak, and you can't use you have to use pronouns, and you have to I couldn't live in that. I'll tell you a story. It's a true story. I had trouble when I worked in retail 1,000 years ago, and I worked for a company that was pseudo, I would say at that time, very woke. They're a woke company, and we had, obviously you're in retail, you're surrounded by women, because that's generally. I'm not saying anything against women here, but at this store in particular, a lot of women work there, and one of the ladies had done a window display that was killer, and we prided ourselves on really great windows. Like people walk by, they had to come in. So she did great. So she came out of the window. I went out, came back in, and I said, "Man, atta girl, that's the way to do it." Well, I get called into the office from corporate. Said, she said that you offended her, and I said, what, how? And I'm all concerned, you know, because I just say things.
What?
Yeah, I know it's hard to believe.
You mean you speak your mind?
Yeah.
How dare you? How dare you?
So she was offended that I said "atta girl" to her. And the company's like, you have to be more sensitive. Well, I'll just tell you that I just said, okay, I'm turning in my resignation. I'm not going to work like this. I can't. So I'll just find another job. And true story. That's how bad it was 20 years ago in the woke movement that I was in. I cannot imagine what it's like now to be surrounded in that kind of an environment where, I mean, so first of all, this brings me to the greatest question of the decade, right? How in the world can these people, these college kids, protest in unity without offending each other when they can't use they have to address everything as they them. They have to, you know, and yet here they are calling for genocide, but you can't use my pronoun. I mean, this is, you know,
Yeah.
how do they do that? How do they organize? How do they do anything when they got to be, this is too loud. Your chanting's too loud. I can't, this is offending me.
Well, I don't know. You want to talk about organized again? Yeah, you're on point here. I will find this video. Let me pull this up here. This was from Libs of TikTok, which if you haven't followed Libs of TikTok, they are phenomenal. So yeah, there's a lot of that, the sensitivity and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But you said, how are they organized? This, like, look at what these people are preparing for.
Okay, so this is the group.
They're preparing for riots. So they're going through they're doing riot training out in the quad. So how do they fight back against going face to face? Oh wait, I'm not even showing everybody out there. Oh, good grief, I forgot to change the camera.
Red Rover, we dare you libs over. Oh, got a massacre.
So isn't that the same?
Is that a taser?
That is the same tactic that the Romans used.
Yeah, like a phalanx.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're just doing arm in arm phalanx. And meanwhile, I feel like in my head, like, I'm sorry,
But
but
a bunch of college kids in their flip-flops.
yeah, linked arm in arm, they're going to make a chain.
Where are their parents?
Hold the line.
You know, I mean, it's like kids are stupid. I get that.
Is this at Emory and Henry?
But it's like
No, Emory University.
Emory, okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I was about to say, you imagine?
Yeah, that's right up the street. Out in the those good old boys out in the country now.
So,
they're not.
but you know, here's the thing that they're forgetting is, you know, they're going to go arm in arm and link up like that. Their face is totally exposed to anybody that wants to just hack.
Sneeze on them. Yeah, you probably just do more by sneezing.
Oh yeah, I mean, no need to punch, just cough. You don't have to swing at them. No throat punch needed. Just cough on them. Oh dear God.
Oh man.
We've derailed.
Yeah, that's all right. This is entertaining for me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but no, on a serious note from that though, you know, they're preparing. What are conservative people doing to prepare?
Yeah. Well, what are they preparing for exactly?
Oh, summer. This is fighting season.
You're right. We talked about it
Talked about this last week.
because he was talking about in Afghanistan how in the wintertime it was like, oh, nothing's happening because it's too cold. Like, I ain't going out of this.
Seasonal warfare.
Yeah, I know. I see the depot. They're restocking all their ammunition down there and stuff, but it's too cold to go deal with that. Let's wait till summer, you know? Like, so here we are. Election season, summertime, cue the music. Like, that's all we got. I mean, it's going to be an amazing, amazing journey. And I can't wait to see what unfolds. So what else do we have? What's your next headline that we can just laugh about? Because it is laughable, almost everything.
Yeah, that one was. Now I've got this week in culture clips. I don't know. Have you ever watched This Week in Culture?
No.
I know Dr. Briscoe hadn't watched this one. he's not an aficionado on this, but this is from a guy called Fleckus. Have you ever heard of Fleckus?
No.
So, in fact, I should probably show you a picture of this guy. He is absolutely hysterical. He's a hippie or a hipster looking guy.
Okay.
And he actually does amazing reporting. But he is, where'd that picture go? Images, Fleckus, here he is. So this is good enough. We'll just pull up a quick picture of him. And anyway, he's got something that he posts every week, and it's called This Week in Culture. And he pulls the absolute craziest, like, leftist type stuff. So this is Fleckus.
Okay.
And let everybody see. So if you haven't checked it out, I'm touting another channel, Fleckus Talks.
Yeah, no, that's great. I do like his matching American hat with his United States Postal Service.
So he used to walk around with a spoon and had a microphone on the end of it. So he's this hipster guy carrying a spoon and a microphone. And people would talk to him because they would assume that he's just a lefty guy, and he'd ask him funny questions or ask him questions, and they'd give him the most ridiculous answers. But he's does something called This Week in Culture.
Okay.
It's not the stuff that I pulled though is unfortunately not as funny. So I can go funny if you want me. I could try to find something.
No. Pull up what you got.
But we can go ahead and run with it. This is a couple of examples. I pulled these from his, straight from his video. So let's listen to this one here.
Satanic statue in the apartment, and the gang members said they wanted to offer the beast a soul. Police say Hernandez Rivera and Alvarez Flores killed the girl execution style. Killers confessed to the crime after they were arrested. 22-year-old Miguel Alvarez Flores, there you see on the left, and 18-year-old Diego Hernandez Rivera on the right appeared in court this week. Now, according to HPD, most MS-13 gang members are in this country illegally.
So this is the intro for his show. He also. This one is will absolutely blow your mind. So listen to this. This one came right after.
Had a warrant out for his arrest after police say in July he was found passed out in a stolen car. But even with 5 previous felony convictions, a judge released him days later. Then he failed to appear in court. He was arrested again in September and released again. He didn't appear in court in October. Yet, when he was arrested, he was released again. He has been on the run since and now faces more burglary and car theft charges.
So where is this, in California?
Yes, I think that's where that one was. I mean, this is it's.
They just don't get it, do they? Californians.
No, they really don't.
I mean, we talked about how the cities are reeling back their drug policies and everything else a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So California, I think we texted about this a little bit. Find our.
I ought to find the. Where did it go? This Week in Culture. Headgummit. Well, we went quiet. Say something, Briscoe.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. So California will no longer be detaining people for resisting arrest.
Yes.
So what do you do if you're a police officer and you're out there and somebody, you're like, freeze? And they're like,
what if these are the people that you're...
and they're like, make me. What is this?
Hang on. Oh, here we go.
Teens causing thousands of dollars in damage to a Glendora business. These vandals broke into Pink Sponge home cleaning service earlier this month. They were caught on surveillance video twerking on top of the company's vehicles and blasting a fire extinguisher. The teens also kicked in headlights, carved on the hood of the cars, and broke windows. They thought they were just having a good time, but they wound up causing $25,000 in damage and are now in big trouble.
That's a felony.
It is, unless you're in California.
Unless you're in California.
So what do you do? What do you do when people you've taken the enforcement of laws away from the laws? Our laws have no teeth anymore, right?
Well, but it's like, where does it go from here? Yeah, right. If.
Well, isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't lawlessness a thing?
Yeah, I read somewhere that the spirit of lawlessness is already at work.
Yeah, isn't that like a thing in the end times? So how hard does that spirit have to work when we're actually handcuffing the enforcers of the law, right? That spirit doesn't have to work very hard.
No.
When you go, okay, there's no and the only thing that is going to be the enforcer of the law, so to speak, is the church, right? The restrainer. We're like the last line of defense. And if you're in California and law enforcement can't do their job anymore, there's no purpose, then
what's really sad is there's a lot of really, really good people still in California.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just the population centers that are
the problem.
And the politicians.
Mm-hmm.
I like, was it Brandon Holdhouse who said that his church offered protection for the rabbis in their community? Wasn't it him? I think it was.
It may have been.
Ron
That
Harper.
sounds like something he would do.
And I mean, he told his congregants, like, when we say protection, we mean protection. Like, be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Be prepared to be hurt. Be prepared to physically stand in the way to protect these men. And,
Yeah.
because this is all happening around us. The anti-Semitism is just through the roof. And yeah, we talked about how the posts on social media are 50-1 in favor of Palestine over Israel. 50-1. You cannot compete with that kind of media barrage.
No, but I think that some of this, as far as the anti-Semitism, anti-Semitism is demonic. I mean, at its root, it's absolutely demonic. I would debate anybody on that. It is at the root of it. However, when you look at the biblical side of things, it's going to be a supernatural act that the Jews are called back to Israel. And I can't help but think that some of this is God trying to get their attention, because there's a huge, huge population in this country. In fact, I think I read somewhere that outside of Israel, there's more Jews here than anywhere else in the world.
Yep.
And how do you get somebody to move? It's the same thing of how the church began to spread. Jesus said, go out into all the world, though they hunkered down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they started getting persecuted immediately.
Yep.
Yeah.
Until the point until they had to spread. And I can't help but think that part of this is God trying to get their attention, like, hey, you're my people, and this is where you're supposed to be. It's time to go home. It's time to go home. And even, we were talking about Amir Safadi before we started, even a lot of the posts that he puts on Telegram, it's talked about, hey, you're supposed to be here. You need to come back home. It's time to come home.
But hadn't that been the call for them for, it's been that's
sure,
been the call
but
for a really long
but
time.
I mean, it's, it's like the intensity of the call has increased and increased and increased and increased and increased. I mean, it's a major miracle that they came back into the land
Absolutely
to begin with,
Right.
and that they became a nation, and something that Palestine never was, and still is not.
correct.
But, on another note, has to do with this. We were talking about Trump earlier, and one cool thing that I did hear about Trump, I guess in this past week, or week and a half, he came out and said that he is no longer in favor of a two-state solution, that he had totally changed his thought process on that. Yeah,
That's
I thought
huge.
that's
Huge.
huge.
That's
Yes. Yeah.
That's really huge.
It is.
I never really thought much about it until all this whole thing kicked off. To be perfectly honest, I just really hadn't. I don't know why I never gave it a whole lot of thought. And it's so painfully obvious that there can't be a two-state solution.
No, it's God's land.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. No, it is.
clear in Scripture. Like, this is my land. You do not divide it.
Right.
Now, I think
I'm just saying that from a political perspective, like there is no getting past, the Islam and Judaism. Like that's a rift that will never be.
guess what? Islam and anything is a rift that
anything,
will
yeah,
never
yeah,
be
yeah.
because you're an infidel.
Yeah.
So, and sure, I know people that are Islamists that are sweet, kind people. Lady at the gas station who I talk to all the time, and she's great. I really like her. And I don't believe that she would kill me. But the teaching of the Quran would have her do that.
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy.
They're antithetical. I wish I could remember the pastor's name. I listened to a sermon he gave. This was years ago. And he was giving the comparison of Christianity and Islam and how they are perfectly antithetical, that when they're
opposites.
Yeah. The return of their, whatever their Messiah is or whatever, mirrors our Antichrist perfectly.
Right.
And so if you've spent any time in that part of the world, and Lord knows I have, if you are peaceful and practice that religion, you are the exception. With Christianity, if you are violent and practice that religion, you are the exception.
Correct.
So it's and not just on that level, but on many levels, it's perfectly antithetical.
Yep. Correct.
So when you bring Judaism into the mix, it will never. And they're more open about it now than they've ever been.
I think that's the thing we were kind of touching on before was, when I was asking you this. So the spirits that attach themselves, and we know that the way that this whole thing is structured is that there are evil spirits, demonic spirits that have areas, nations, and it drills down from there. I mean, if you think about the army, mm-hmm. right? You got your in charge guy, and then it just keeps going down from him. It's like you just go down the food chain. And so, the bottom of the food chain would be like, the evil entity or the demon in charge, who's over my house.
Right.
Right. But from there it goes to the block, and from there it goes to the city, and from there it goes to the region, to the state, to the, so it just keeps kind of going up the ladder. So we know that the Prince of Persia, found in Daniel 10, right? This Prince of Persia, the evil prince, was there in, what was Daniel written? 250 something BC? Something like that, right?
Yeah, I think it was actually a little longer before that, but
5. Yeah,
he gave the exact number of days.
Yes, he did. He did, totally.
I can look at 73,000 days. Is that what it was? So what is that divided by 360?
530 BC.
530 BC.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was only off by a couple centuries. Give me a break, fellas.
What's a century among
Give me a break.
You be so stupid.
Right. So you look at this and go, okay, so 500 years BC, there was a demonic presence who made his authority felt through the land of Persia, which is now Iran. He didn't move away. He didn't go anywhere. He's always been there. He's always been in control. He's always been in charge. The same holds true for Greece. The same holds true for every nation except one. Every nation is governed by an evil spirit except one. And that nation is God's chosen nation, which is Israel. That's why everybody's hated them from the beginning. That's why everybody will continue to hate them till the end. And I believe that Satan's ultimate goal is the eradication of Israel. Period. Whenever Israel had the influence of a demonic spirit, it was a demonic spirit that they brought in on their own. They set up their own altars. Mm-hmm. They set up, they brought in the gods of all the Canaanites and they brought them in. Those weren't their gods. They never were their gods. They brought them in. And in the same token, the land that they were given was given to them by God. Palestine doesn't exist today. It never existed. And anybody that doesn't believe in Yahweh doesn't belong there. And I'm saying it because we're already kicked off because he's on the show and he's said other things. But but it's true that anybody who doesn't believe in Yahweh as God doesn't belong in that area because that's the land that God has chosen to give to his followers, right? So I bring all this up because what do you got? You're over there reading.
Zechariah 12. I mean, that's
Go for it.
well, yeah. So Zechariah 12:2 through, I don't know, about 6. It says, behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of drunkenness to all the surrounding peoples when they lay siege against Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall happen in that day that I will make Jerusalem a very heavy stone for all peoples. All who would heave it away will surely be cut in pieces. Though all nations of the earth are gathered against it in that day, says the Lord, I will strike every horse with confusion and its rider with madness. I will open my eyes on the house of Judah and will strike every horse of the peoples with blindness. And the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem are my strength, and the Lord of hosts their God.
Okay, and to the believer that would say, well, that already happened. How do they do that? I like to think that the weaker argument, like, don't stand on the weaker argument. The same holds true for like the cessationalists, right? They go, well, where there's tongues, it'll cease. Where there's, it's like, okay, wait a minute. First of all, read the whole thing in context and understand that Paul is bracketing that with, Paul follows up with, where there's tongues, they'll cease. Where there's prophecies, they'll cease. And then the very next segment, Paul's talking about, so prophesy. Well, wait a minute. You just said that stuff's going to stop. No. He's saying, yeah, it will. Sure it will. When Christ comes back, all of it stops, right? It'll all stop when he establishes his kingdom on earth. He's here. But for now, that stuff keeps going. But people will build their personal spiritual kingdoms on these weak arguments.
Yeah. Well, and so much of these cases have double fulfillments as well. There are things that have taken place that's been a fulfillment or a partial fulfillment, but it still clearly speaks of things that will happen
right
in the future as well.
This is a great example. So people will point to that and go, well, they were surrounded. The temple was destroyed. You go, okay, but read more. Read on. There's much more that's supposed to happen.
Sure.
So I believe that is yet to come. And what we're seeing is the nations rallying around Israel. Once again, here we go.
That's what it said. The surrounding peoples.
Right.
The surrounding peoples. And we talked a while back about Psalm 83 on this program, and and I still believe as much as ever that is what is taking place, because it's all the immediate surrounding people that are involved in the Psalm 83 conflict, and they're all in play right now. They're all in play.
Every one of them.
Yeah. And so it's just a matter, I believe it's just a matter of time. And you'd have a hard time convincing me otherwise that it has already taken place, already been fulfilled in completion. Let's move on to something else. I just do not believe it. It's an amazing time to be alive. It's a really amazing time, because this is not just happenstance or coincidence or anything of the sort. This is the Bible coming alive before us, but there are so many that have been totally blinded to the truth of God's word. In fact, Jesus said many times, he who has an ear, let him hear. We just got done talking about all these kids on campuses doing these. What they are doing makes zero sense. In fact, there's all kinds of news cuts out there of, like, what are you here to protest? Oh yeah, Palestine. What about them? Well, they're going to be free.
Yeah, they pull the Scooby Doo on.
Why exactly we're here? And there's those cuts that are out there. I just saw 2 or 3 of them this past week. They have no idea what they're doing, but they have been their eyes have been darkened, and they've just been poisoned with incredibly bad information. And it's like, you got to identify with some type of cause, and they have no idea the ramifications of what they are doing and these things that they are adopting. In fact, I just read it. That applies to them too. All the nations are going to make a heavy stone and they're going to be cut to pieces. That includes kids on Columbia University.
Well, I'll tell you what, and Jerusalem is a heavy stone. Israel is a heavy, heavy stone right now to the world,
Sure.
to the globe. I mean, even us as the strongest ally of Israel, right? They're dancing around now. Well, I don't know if we should give them any.
Yeah, they're withholding weapons.
It's like, give me a break. I mean, yeah, it is amazing to me. But again, because these spirits, these princes, if you will, from the moment of the Tower of Babel, right, that went out into the nations to govern the nations, they were given authority by God to govern, because nothing happens without his okay. All right, especially in the spirit realm. They go out to rule these nations. God chooses Israel. He's keeping Israel. And ever since that moment, they've come against Israel and will continue to do so until the ultimate judgment, and here's the beauty of it.
Well, until they say, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of
Exactly. But the beauty of it is all this stuff God is using to orchestrate his name, being lifted up, right? To orchestrate the coming home of his people. And you brought it out masterfully. The church sat back until the persecution happened, right? Until things start to move against you, until you start to feel, the zeal that is happening in Israel right now for the general population, for people that never considered God, right? It's
happening in the Muslim world too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
There's amazing things happening in Iran. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Which, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no. I was just going to say that the kind of the underground church is growing massively.
Sure.
I heard from somebody, was listening to someone speak the other day, and she spent her life as basically as a missionary in the Middle East and different parts of the Middle East, and that people are finding it very easy to come to Christ in the Middle East, just by it's by happenstance. They're doing certain mission work over there, and just by being around those people, it's not like they say you have to be a Christian to come help us. And they have Muslim people that just by the proximity, they are latching on quickly to the Christian faith and accepting Christ and leaving Islam. And they're having to. It's a very dangerous, obviously very dangerous for them to do that.
Extremely.
I was listening to the Patrick Bet David podcast months ago, and they had two guys on, young white guys that had converted to Islam, and they are 100% open and honest about Sharia law in America, 100% open and honest about death for apostates. And that is their vision. And that's what a lot of them young women that are wearing the full garb, we used to call it the beekeeper outfit, but they're got their face covered and all that. And to, experience a different level of freedom is going to be difficult for them, but they are very much attuned to it. They are very, very interested.
Well, because this isn't working.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine being a woman?
No.
Stuck in a burqa, right?
No.
Well, there was a I guess I don't know if she was Muslim or not. I reposted it on Facebook the other day, but it was a letter that she had written about these girls that are running around and these different things. Like, I bet you haven't even read this. I bet you don't even know that this means that you are owned as a slave. Like, you have to have sex with him anytime he wants, and if you refuse this and that, he has every right in the world to beat you to a bloody pulp. And
I
blah,
saw
blah, blah,
this.
Blah. Yeah, it was an amazing
Yes.
read that she was putting out there. But you're talking about the underground church. I was listening to I think it was Tom Hughes on Hope for Our Times, and he was interviewing a guy that was originally from Iran, and he was talking a lot about just the underground church in Iran, and their estimates is between 3 and 4 million Christians.
Yes.
Just in Iran.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, we don't hear anything about like.
Well, then Iran. What do you say? Iran has like 1.5 or what, or 1 million or 1.5 million is what they report.
Right,
because
that's what
those
they
are people
report,
that
but-
would be
yeah.
brave enough to say they are, but really the
Said
numbers
the
are.
actual numbers, somewhere.
And I loved what he said. It's almost like if it takes 10 minutes to win somebody to Jesus, it's too long. Like it's so fast that people are coming to Christ so quickly over there that it must be exhausting.
Well, here's the cool thing about this too, and we talked about this in that show a long time ago. We talked about Psalm 83. You know, Elam is the biblical name there for Iran, and in the millennial reign, in the millennial kingdom, God's got a throne set up in 2 locations. One of them's Jerusalem, and the other one is Elam, and that's very telling. You know, and historically, they were always allies with Israel throughout the course of time, and of course, like what you're saying, the spiritual warfare and the things that have taken over, and the demonic has set powers in place that has stamped down a lot of those that would be allies with the nation of Israel. But I mean, you read tweets and stuff all the time over. We are not our government. We are Iran, and we stand with Israel, and so on and so forth.
That's right.
It's really cool to see and read those things.
In fact, the same guy was saying, the same guy was saying that they had when they called out, the government wanted to have people come out and chant "Death to America, Death to Israel," and they wouldn't.
Yeah, they didn't do it.
They
were chanting, but they were chanting something else.
They were chanting. They were chanting down with the regime. I think is what they were. And so you sit back and go, "There's a revolution that's being squashed, obviously, which has been being squashed in Iran."
I believe I heard that a retired star soccer player and a current star volleyball player on Iran's national teams have both come out in support of Israel, and they have both disappeared.
Gone missing. Crazy.
Yeah.
That level of authoritarianism doesn't jive with people who are, I've always thought people are, it's not that we're meant to be ruled necessarily, but I mean, obviously we know biblically that leaders are, leaders chosen by God, and we are meant to be led. Like, we have to be led. It's just it's in our nature.
Governed.
Right. We're governed. Right. So I've always said that the people here in America, they call themselves, we are the leaders of this country. No, you are the representatives of this country. You're not my leader. You have to exhibit leadership qualities to get things done, but you are not my leader. I am yours. I'm your boss, and which is a new concept, obviously. But anyway, when people start to nab, it happens every single time. When they start to nab too much authority, people reject it because we have free will. God gave us free will. In fact, I got in an internet beef with somebody about this. We were talking about Christian nationalism and all this, and I was like, free will, because he was one of those of almost a Christian convert or die kind of person. And I was like, that's not how this works, because we have to come freely to God. We can't come to God through force. It's not possible.
Forced love is not love.
No, it's not. Absolutely. And forced love is what happens in the Middle East.
Right.
Predominantly. And it's not even forced love.
It's not love at all.
It's just
forced behavior.
Well, that's what Islam means, right? Submission. Yeah. We submit to one another, and we submit to Christ, but it's not a forced submission. I mean, that's how Islam was established, by force.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it was a warlord. And
when you had that area in Scripture, I think it might be somewhere around Matthew 12, possibly, might not be there, but where basically they were saying, this is a hard teaching, who can understand it? And many deserted him at that point. I don't think that's Matthew 12, but anyway, Jesus didn't go after him. He's like, no, you have to love. No, he said, well,
he let them go.
He let them go.
Right?
Yeah.
Whosoever will.
And I believe that he desperately wanted each and every one of them to come back, and I'm sure that some of them did.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
I love that is such a great, comparison, because we've done it all night, right? Where it's like, okay, here's Christianity. It's not his will that any should perish, but that everyone should have eternal life. And he says, whosoever will may come. Okay? I'm not going to force you to come.
Mm-mm.
I want you here. I want you to have eternal life.
Yeah.
I want to give you the peace that your heart desires.
To eat from the tree of life.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I want this for you,
Yes.
because I love you, right? Where the other side is,
Well, in the church context, it's bride, it's marriage.
yeah, that's right.
You know, that's very profound.
Yeah.
And everything about that relationship is modeled through that, and will be consummated at the rapture and the marriage supper of the Lamb. You know, I mean, I cannot wait. That's going to be awesome. But
That'd be next week.
But oh shoot,
I mean, come on.
We
don't give dates here.
everything. What 4:30?
It's 3. But yes, everything culminates with that moment, right? And what's great is, for the last few thousand years, this is what we've waited for.
Yeah.
And we can see things happening now, we see things every week. It's the same thing. We sound like a broken record, but it's truth. It's simple truth that this is unfolding before our eyes. Wake up. If you don't know Jesus, if you're somebody that's sitting on the fence going, I'm not so sure I believe it. I'm not so sure. I mean, I'll tell you.
Well, here's the thing about that. And we've all heard this our whole life through people that, I mean, I asked the question to a lot of people point blank. It's like, are you a follower of Christ? And man, it breaks my heart, because I've got a lot of people who said, no, not at all. I mean, kind of hedge my bets. And it's like, I'll get straightened up at some point. And it's like, right now, it's an absolutely free gift. And you're telling me that you won't live for Christ now, but during the tribulation, you'll be willing to die for him.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's a good way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That dog doesn't hunt. I'm sorry. And yes, we know that there is going to be a massive revival during the Great Tribulation, that there will be a lot of people that will be saved out of that. That's why they're referred to as the tribulation saints.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you really feel that way, why in the world would you not?
Why would you wait this out?
Exactly, because it is going to be the worst.
It's going to be so bad that he cuts it short, or else there's nothing left. I mean, like, do you get it?
Yeah, a third of the earth is going to be wiped out.
Right. I mean,
and then another quarter is
like,
going to be wiped out. And
I mean, you can't imagine. You watch, these movies with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and everybody, like Deep Impact and all these, these movies that are like, oh, this is the end. This is the end. And it's like, imagine putting all those movies together, right? In real life, in real time, and they all actually happened, and you're still here. And that's what it's going to be like. Like we can't imagine
describes
this.
people desiring death.
They want to die.
That will not come. Death will not come.
Right. Yeah. It's so bad that you're gonna beg for death, and yet you're not gonna get it. Whew.
I think the reason that you're asking why people wouldn't accept that free gift, I think that it's what we've. I mean, I can speak for here in America, but I would say largely even in Europe and across the world, as we've removed God from our day-to-day lives, because it used to be a critical component, even if you weren't necessarily going to church every Sunday, everybody in your neighborhood was, right? But we've moved God and the church out of our lives. What the world, the things of this world, are offered to us on steroids in social media, in the pornography and drugs and alcohol, and these things are becoming legal, readily available, and more stimulating than anything people have ever had before. And that is a world. They are so overcome by the things of this world and the pleasures of this world that they can't imagine giving that up for something that they aren't 100% certain of.
Storing up your treasures on earth as opposed to your treasures in heaven.
Right.
And, and that's something I was thinking about, what the point that you're making right there. I've thought so much about that. And there are so few teachers out there that will teach on the millennial reign. There's lots of beliefs about that are, in my opinion, very wrong, because I believe the Bible's very clear. It's a physical kingdom. When Jesus comes and puts his foot down on the earth, he is going to rule and reign on the earth for 1,000 years. And whatever good we think we see right now that is around us, and I'm not even talking eternal state, okay? I'm talking the millennial kingdom, the 1,000 years. We can't fathom. We can read about it and we can try to imagine how good things are. Like whatever the things we enjoy the most is not going to hold a candle to how good it's going to be. Like people who say, "Oh, I want to watch my kids grow up." No, I don't want to. I love my children, okay? I love my children. I don't care if they grow up here. I want to watch them grow up there. Let them.
Yeah.
Let's go there where there ain't no sin, there's no shame,
But
there's no murder.
What's so crazy about this is because it just shows the nature of humanity.
Yeah.
1,000-year reign, right? There's still
Did God really say that?
boom.
That
There's still in 1,000-year reign after seeing everything that we've seen, and I think 1,000 years in that 1,000-year reign, it's going to be probably out of the camp that wasn't rescued from the tribulation, right?
Sure, we know that there's going to be unbelievers in that.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that explains the wedding clothes. Or it's like, how did you get in here without wedding clothes? I believe that that's unbelievers in the 1,000-year reign. But obviously, we know that at the end of that, there's going to be another revolt of one last uprising. Satan's going to be let out. Christ's going to wipe them out, and then it's the eternal state. And then
Yeah. So it's almost like how. Okay, we got it is 10:07.
Yeah. Yeah, we went
But-
over. It's all good.
But
It's not the end of
so
the world.
like when I look at that and I read that and I think about that, process it all. Is it almost like could it be almost like a do-over of what we have witnessed, just like it was in the days of Noah, right? Then he comes back. He rescues us. Then he comes and establishes his kingdom. 1,000-year reign. And during that 1,000-year reign, things start to go somehow again, just like he says.
yes and no, because he's still going to be ruling with a rod of iron.
Right. I mean, he's here.
He's here,
So
and we're going to be ruling and reigning with him. But it does not mean that.
there won't be issues. I mean, we know there's going to be
the earth is
issues.
going to be repopulated, and you still have to accept Christ at that point. And I don't know all of the details of it all. I
Oh,
don't.
well,
I mean, I've read it many times, and I know what I have, the conclusions that I have come up with. And I just stated most of them a second ago. I don't know how it's all going to work out because there's a 1,000-year time gap that we're talking about in the matter of the last 2.5 minutes.
Right.
We can.
Yeah.
There's no way that we can. But I do know that there are verses in Scripture that speak exactly to what I'm talking about here, of where we can't fathom. It's like no eye has seen nor ear has heard what he has prepared in advance for those who love him. There's one, and I think, is it Colossians, where it says, "Now unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or imagine." Think about that.
No doubt.
Above all that we can ask or imagine.
No doubt. No doubt about it. It is going to be an amazing thing that we can't fathom. We cannot even imagine what's going to happen. Thank you, God, that we are going to be rescued, that we are going to be a part of that. It's going to be great. How? And the same question holds true. How could the enemy willingly leave that place right? The angels try to overthrow perfection beyond our imagination. And sometimes I'm struck with that. Like, how could that jealousy, that envy, that desire to be like God, to be him, be so strong that you're willing to sacrifice heaven for it?
And yet that's what Lucifer talked those part of the angels into.
Right.
Talked them out of heaven.
And we're going to see that same pattern unfold with humanity even after experiencing the perfection.
Perfect government.
If that doesn't show you how we're just
talked about the mess of government
Yeah.
for the first 30, 40 minutes of this thing.
Yeah.
And we're talking a perfect government at this point. Perfect.
Yeah.
And yet there will still be those that uprise at the end. And, it's a sad thing. At the end of the day, if you don't know Christ and you're not sure about it, man, reach out to the show and, man, let us talk with you. I mean, nobody's ever been saved by winning or losing an argument. I can just tell you what Christ has done for me in my life. But I just, all this stuff that we're talking about, I believe we're at the end.
I do
believe
too.
We're at the end of the end. We need to get Jesus to people and people to Jesus, because it is the truth. And Jesus said, "Those who listen to me are on the side of truth." That's profound. There's two sides. One is truth, and everything else is not. And Satan is the father of lies. He was a murderer from the beginning. And, man, I still go back to, we can't even perceive what he has prepared for us, for those who love him. And
Yeah. Good.
Man,
You actually said it so good. I wholeheartedly agree with you that Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, the life. No man comes to the Father except through me." So every other religion, every other belief system, every other thing, you can't have an all-inclusive God. You can't have an all-inclusive. It is, I am the way. That's the problem.
Yeah, and it's Jesus.
It's Jesus.
A lot of people will throw the word God around a lot.
Yeah.
But it is the name of Jesus. There is no other name under heaven by which we can be saved. It is the name of Jesus. It is only by his precious blood and only through belief and trust in him to take your sin away and cover you in front of a holy Father.
Yeah. And so if you have questions about this stuff, we'd love to hear from you. If you've been questioning God and questioning Jesus and questioning Christianity and questioning what we've been saying.
And wearing Free Palestine shirts.
Yes. I will just say this. The amazing thing is we can pull today's headlines out and read them. They were written 2,500 years ago.
Yes.
This is nothing new. God knew this was going to happen. And so for me, I sit back and go, if you want proof that Jesus is Lord, that God exists, that he loves you, that he sent his son Jesus to die for you, the proof is in what you're seeing unfolding in Israel and around the world today. It's all been prophesied, and the prophecies fulfilled should tell you this is real. This is real, and it's happening quickly. So, friends, if you don't know Christ, we would love to pray with you. We would love to talk to you. You can reach out and email us at thebraverthantheRest@gmail.com. Again, that's thebraverthantheRest@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you until next week, where we will try to get off at 10 o'clock. We're braver than the rest. Keep your eyes to the skies. He's coming.